very happy to be here. There are a lot of dignitaries and industry captains from pharmaceutical industry, people from Economic Times, CEOs and other people involved in research, and everyone. I very warm good morning from my side. I joined about a month back in this job and trying to learn fast. So the purpose of coming here today was also to meet people in the industry and ask them what do they want from us. It's a very happy time to say for innovation in India, because I think pushed by industry, government is now moving forward, trying to check boxes which industry has asked the government to do. The first one was on the regulatory side. Second one is on the whatever grants government can provide. And third is the government's own system, which does research and all, and what can we do in that side. So these are three boxes in which primarily we are working. And I'm really happy that this push has come from the industry. And whenever industry asks government in a single voice, government always listens. Most of the time, like during when we designed PLI, COVID time was there, or even otherwise. Sometimes the government comes up with the schemes which industry had not really asked, and we learn on the way. In some ways, PLI was, in some of the sectors was like that. It was a difficult time, COVID time was a difficult time, we designed a lot of things. But good thing is we learned from our mistakes as to what went wrong and what we should have done, and some areas what went right. So I think this industry push is something very good. We are in a stage where I think the focus is on the innovation, whether you talk of biopharma, biosimilars, or new drugs in biopharma. And the question which this conference is raising is whether you innovate for India or innovate for the world. I think the answer lies in the question itself. If it's something related to Indian diseases, India-specific diseases, which are low-hanging fruits, obviously you design keeping India in focus, or the markets similar to India, you design for that. But if you are doing something truly innovative for the global scale, then you have to do an innovation for the world, because it costs that much. You can't recover those costs from the Indian market. If you are investing $1 billion or $500 million, you can't recover that much of research cost in India. So primarily you design for the world, and the small segment you design for India. That's how the market has been operating, and that's how I see this question. And when you design, innovate for the world, we are at a beginning stage, we are at a nascent stage, particularly in the biopharma sphere. Good thing is, now industry is asking us a lot of things, including accelerated depreciation for investment in innovation, grants from government for innovation, increase much better regulatory system, which makes it regulation fast. Now that's a very difficult area in a way, because we have not really developed a capacity in the regulatory sphere in India. We recognize this now, and we start moving in that direction to build a regulatory capacity. It would take time. It's not easy to build regulatory capacity, particularly in government. You can't straight away hire people. There is a process, it takes time. Till that time, probably it's better to rely a lot on the industry, but at the same time, unethical practices should not be there. That is what is the objective. So a bit of a light regulation is need of the hour, and government is moving in that direction. Let's see how fast we can do. Some restrictions have been removed, but we need to do much more. I think since we have seen US and China moving so fast in this sphere, and the market is the whole world, you have to compete with them. So we need to be better than them in our regulatory speed. Now that should be the objective, and I'm sure in next 6 months' time we would be reaching there. So we'll have to cover our handicaps in that side, that our regulatory capacity is not that much, and it will take few years to build. If we work very hard and we are successful, it will take few years to build that regulatory capacity. Till that time, what type of light regulation we design, covering ethical practices but giving much faster clearance to industry. So government is quite seized on the matter, is fully prepared to do that, but it takes time to build capacity in government. So I think you will have to keep pushing government in that direction, and that would certainly give the results. This year's budget made a lot of announcements in biopharma sector on innovation. We would like to work with the industry to design government support for the industry, both on the innovation side, in the entire clinical trials cycle. Government is willing to provide support to the industry, both to the startups as well as to large industry, as well as the entire biosimilar area. Now that, again, the costs are very, very important. Our costs are higher compared to what is happening in the world. And so we need to move to provide government support for industry to build capacity, as well as I think every effort to build capacity in industry needs to be supported by some barriers of the kind. We have seen in some of the fermentation-based drugs, this is happening, because without which you can't compete. But you can't, you can build barriers only for Indian market. You can't build barriers if you want to reach the globe. And if you are making biosimilars for the rest of the world, the barriers alone won't help. So a combination of a bit of a barriers, but a much larger capacity in industry is required for biosimilar industry. So that is what I think government would like to sit with industry and design the scheme. Then the third part is, there is a large apparatus in government we have built in Department of Biotechnology, in ICMR, in CSIR labs, doing fundamental research in biopharma area or similar areas. Now their interaction with industry has been limited till now. We need to change that, and it's not an easy process to change the mindset in government labs. Some of the IITs we have done that, but not in the government labs. So I think we need to work on that and improve industry interaction with these labs, whether we can do a collaborative projects between government labs and industry. Other area I think which we have done some work is the incubators and providing support to startups. We have made some incubators, some good work with CCAMP and other places have been done. Pune also has done good work. But I think with this new scheme of supporting biopharma Shakti Mission, it would be a good idea to build capacity to support the startups. Right now, to manufacture something for clinical trials or for other purposes, they have to go somewhere in India or go abroad. We don't have the labs, we don't have the manufacturing capacities, a lot of them. We would like to work, provide say 75% or some investment we can do from the government side, and we would like to partner with industry to set up those pilot plants where the startups can do the manufacturing and get things probably at a lower cost in India compared to other countries. I hope industry would be willing to put in some money, because we can put 100% money, but then if the operator doesn't have any skin in the game, it becomes another not working PPP model, and you get players who are not serious. So when we are designing new NIPERs in terms of capacity building as well as existing NIPERs, that's a budget announcement. The one idea is that NIPERs obviously are good in providing academic training, but we also make them centers for incubation centers or pilot plants, which can be run by the industry. The NIPERs students and faculty can get trained on working on them, but it's operated by the industry. Government say puts in 75% money and provides the premises, provides the building. The private sector partner comes in and runs it for profit. We don't get into the operations of those. Once, say, 7, 8, 10 such plants come up, I'm sure it would benefit industry, it would benefit startups. So, I think the mindset is a collaboration on the government side, pushed by industry, government opening up its checkbook or purse to support industry, but we would like a much more involvement by the industry in designing those schemes, designing the interventions, and in the operations also, because it's easier in government to give grant, but to collaborate. It's one of the most difficult parts in Indian system. When you work so long in government or in industry, you realize how difficult it is to collaborate between government and industry. It's a difficult part, government, particularly when government scientific institutions also come in, government regulators come in. It's a difficult part. We need to work together. But as Prime Minister says, that whole of the government approach needs to be followed. So in biopharma mission, we are following whole of the government approach. So we are touching the regulatory side, SEDISCO side, and RCGM, or Department of Biotechnology. So Department of Biotechnology is involved. Department of Health and Family Welfare is involved. We are touching the clinical trial sites. About 100 have been there accredited by ICMR. We'd like to go to 1,000. Those in clinical trial sites, the idea which ICMR has is whichever private hospitals we select or whoever is coming forward to improve their hospitals for clinical trial sites, we provide them a bit of a model, provide them capacity building support, but ICMR primarily provides them accreditation facility and also a support and some grant for data uploading. Right now our clinical trial sites don't have the systems for uploading data, and we do it in a later phase. Our credibility of our trials get a bit of a compromised. So accreditation and using of the softwares and new systems for clinical trial sites is what ICMR has worked for about 100 cases. We would like to do it for 1,000 cases. So ICMR is involved. Department of Pharmaceuticals is involved in providing grants and on the NIPER side. And we are involving DBT also in collaborative research, similarly CSIR. So it's a whole of the government approach we are following. Another area which I'd like to touch upon in this context is we are running a scheme called PRIP for giving grant to industries for research. What DG ICMR was telling me, globally it takes about 8 to 10 months to someone applies for a grant, and when we sanction, they get the money. In India, we are taking longer. We need to reduce the time gap between when people ask for a grant. Now the speed is very, very important in pharmaceutical. If you delay it by a year, a lot of significance of that research goes away. So for very fundamental research, it is fine, but for most of the research, I think time is very, very important. So we need to speed up our systems so that we evaluate the proposals and sanctions them very fast. Again, I think we need to involve industry and people from outside India also. For that, till now we have been primarily using government scientific establishment for evaluating the proposals. I'm not very sure how up to date we are on doing that. We would like to hear from the industry as to how much industry involvement would be useful. Obviously, there is a conflict of interest issue, but that can be taken care of in different ways. So we would like to do an evaluation of grants, not just in our department, in the PRIP scheme, as well as in the new biopharma mission. We would like to do an evaluation system with industry, with government institutions, and provide grant to the industry as fast as possible. India is on the cusp of doing something very good in biopharma area, but that depends on how we do it. It's not given that we will do well. We will do well only if we do right things. Both from the industry side, there has been reluctance in our industry to invest in R&D. Very few had done that. Some have got good results, some didn't get it. So there has to be a willingness on the side of industry to take more risk. There has to be a willingness from the investors to take more risk. If they expect everyone a fixed returns and price is not going up and down, then it's difficult. Whether it is AI or it is software or it is pharmaceutical, you have to take risk. Then the risk does mean you go down also. The investors have to be prepared for that. I think that education of investors we need to do along with the education which you are doing for the government. So let's take that risk. Government would provide support both in terms of grants and speed and faster regulation. And I hope at some point of time your wish list of accelerated depreciation comes. So there would be enough from the government side. I hope there would be enough from the side of the private sector. The more challenging part is whether we would do enough from the scientific capacity in the government establishments we have built. That's even more challenging. But we need to move in all of these directions, bringing talent back, more capacity, building whether through NIPERs or IITs or some other scientific institutions. We need to work in all of these spheres. If we do all of these right, I'm sure whatever we have done in pharmaceutical area, in chemical area, similar thing we can do in biopharma, but we need to do much more. In pharmaceutical chemical-based industries, it was more of a manufacturing, and there was a historical context of patents and protected markets, and that is no longer there. So it depends. Its regulatory side on the IP protection is not really available. That what was available for Indian chemical-based pharmaceutical industry to develop. Here we need to do based on the innovation, based on whatever government builds up capacity, provides support, and take risks. I'm sure this conference by Economic Times would help in generating enough interest, enough dialogue, enough talk on this and move in the right direction. But yes, we need to set our house ready both from the private sector side and the government side, and I'm sure we'll do well in that area. Thank you very much.